Welcome to the eCommerce Expert Podcast, where we get up close and personal with the superheroes of e-commerce, getting them to reveal their most profitable tactics and strategies to help you level up your e-commerce game. So fasten your seatbelt and get ready for an info-packed ride with your host, e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing OG, Derek Gale.
Welcome to the eCommerce Expert Podcast. This is your host, Derek Gale, and today's guest is a digital marketing veteran, a best-selling author, an investor, and the co-founder of Conversion Fanatics, which is a full-service conversion optimization company that has helped numerous big, well-known brands like ButcherBox, Ancient Nutrition, NBC Sports, 1-800-Flowers, a lot of big names to really improve their marketing. And actually was just acquired in 2022 and now is a division of Fusion 92, where Justin is also the SVP of CRO. There's a mouthful of abbreviations for you. And he's continuing with his mission of every site optimized. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Justin Christianson to the show. Justin, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you sold your company, hey?
I did.
Good for you. I mean, that is kind of the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, was this a decision that you had made recently, or was it did it just kind of fall into your lap, or was it like, hey, it's time to exit?
Well, we had the goal from day one when we started the company 9.5 or so years ago. It's like, let's build something substantial that somebody would want.
Yeah.
Let's build a company the right way. Let's do it, there. And then as we further got along, we got very rabbit holed kind of and siloed into just offering conversion rate optimization as a solution. Mm-hmm. Like that was all we knew. And we tried to dabble in other pieces, but we really sought out to find a partner beginning of 2022. Mm-hmm. Really just to a place for not only our employees to kind of have a place to grow, but also to provide additional services and have those additional resources without having to essentially build it ourselves. So we sought out a broker and went down that whole chain of events to, fielded a whole bunch of potential buyers and did some traveling and ended up getting, several letters of intent, and then ultimately settled on one partner and closed that last August. And now we're just basically the division of their company as the, still operating the same as we've always operated. And, in terms of our solutions and the processes there, same team and all that fun stuff as a division of the bigger company.
And I mean, before we started the episode, we were chatting about that. I really think one of these days I need to do an episode and even like a panel of those of us who have exited the company, and just to, it'd be a little bit like therapy, I think, but also, to share.
That's a polite way to put it.
To share the process, because it's a process, and it's not just about selling the company; it's about what happens after you sell the company. Yeah, and that's. There's a lot to prepare for. And I remember the first time I did it, a lot of people gave me advice. I didn't listen to that advice, and maybe I should have, because it would have made life a lot easier. But, there's a whole other episode to be had in there. But today I think we're going to dig into the conversion optimization. But before we do that, I always like to start with our guests' origin stories. Now, I got to preface this and say, I've known Justin for a long time. In fact, we were just talking. I think he was on my previous podcast probably 5-6 years ago. It's going back a ways, probably 2017 or 18, where we talked conversion optimization. And so I'm really excited to get back into this. And, it's been a few years. Things have changed. But before we do, give us your background. How did you become the conversion optimization guy?
Well, luckily, I learned from actually you and the late, great Corey. Back, I started 2001. So got really started into kind of network marketing when I first got my start and realized I wasn't very good at bumping into people at the mall. So found the internet, generate leads there, kind of went down that rabbit hole of info marketing and affiliate marketing, became partners on a company, info publishing company with Mike Dillard. Grew that company about 400% the first year we were together, another like 150% the next year. But I got really fascinated about the psychology of buying and kind of how people interact on the internet. and published a bunch of information, started split testing before there was, software to split test, and realized that, well, what do you mean I can change one little element and get 20% more people to fill out the form? So kind of went down that rabbit hole, and, really just studied a lot of buying psychology, and then based on that information, published there, split ways with that partnership, sold it back to them, and started a private consultancy, and people were just kind of on demand and wanted me to do the implementation and the optimization and really just advise on that strategy. And then we realized that people were always talking about the traffic piece. So it's like, just, you need the latest Facebook ads hack or the latest Google hack or whatever. Yeah. And nobody was really talking about the conversion piece. And so we sought out to teach it. Nobody wanted to really learn it. They just wanted us to do it for them. And so we disrupted the market a little bit and just created kind of the first essential done for you CRO solution. There were other solutions out there, but they weren't really done for you. They were just kind of, hey, here's the PSD file, take it and go test it and report back. And we said, we'll not only design it, we'll actually implement it, and we'll test it for you. And then fast forward 9.5 years ago, we started that company, and it's been quite the ride ever since.
Quite the adventure, yeah. And it sounds like that adventure is coming to an end, and eventually you'll be looking for the next big thing.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. We just take it day by day and just keep doing what we do.
Right on. Good stuff. So, actually, while we were chatting before we started recording, you said something just in the state of e-commerce in 2023. And I'd like you to elaborate on that and what you're seeing. And I know we're going to talk about conversion optimization, but I always like talking to guys like you, because you're not just in a silo. You're not just like, I sell this on the internet. You're working with, as you said, 50 plus different clients and all these different niches. So you get perspective into how things are going overall, not just within a little silo. Give me your take on 2023. I mean, I've been seeing stuff in my businesses. It ain't COVID anymore.
No, it ain't. People are having to work for it now.
Yeah.
It's not the pop-up dropship store, and if you have it, it's there. So I think leading up to probably, I guess, into Q4, I guess the end of Q3 last year is where I started kind of seeing it. Usually we'll see that huge pop. Obviously Black Friday starts way earlier than Black Friday. And usually we'll see that pop. That pop didn't happen till late. As a whole, there were some that were really banging, and then there were some that just fell flat. Like, we saw businesses that were wildly profitable. I mean, we're talking $500,000 a month, wildly profitable, never had a down month. All of a sudden are breaking even, almost losing money. Then we're seeing companies that were, doing $250,000 a month. Now all of a sudden they're struggling to make payroll.
And were most of these guys from media buyers, like the driving traffic off Facebook and
so mediums? A lot of them kind of got sucked into that. They didn't really have a full omnichannel approach. I would say they kind of were a one-trick pony in a lot of cases. And then what we kind of saw is a heavy push towards a lot of split payment. So people bought Christmas on split payment and credit.
Yeah.
So now I don't think it's necessarily a marketing drive that's going to win in 23. I think it's those who manage inventory the best are going to win.
Yeah.
And come out on the other side of it, because there's a lot of expectations that aren't being met. Very similar to what we saw going into COVID, and really how we recovered out of COVID was we just leaned into it. It's like, hey, we're taking the safe best practices and we're doing all of this. We have products. Please accept this delay, just really just setting that expectation for the buyer. And now it's like, hey, we're seeing a lot of reaction to it's in stock, it's ready to ship, and really backing up kind of that warranty, money back guarantee, kind of risk reversal type angle. But I'm seeing a lot of businesses struggle. So it's not the same big return on ad spend type aspect. It's really like, can I acquire customers at break even? Which obviously you and I know that's the name of the game anyway.
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
all of these Facebook guys were, what do you mean you're not getting 10x, return on ad spend? And that's not the case. And it's few and far between unless you're just going to go in and blow out an offer and then, quick
Churn
money
and burn.
grab. But if you're actually building a company for sustainable growth, you're going to have to manage your inventory. You're going to have to manage those expectations, and just don't worry about what that return on ad spend is. And I think those that really lean into this, what's going to happen probably in the next, I'd say 9 to 18 months, is you're going to have to lean into it and really pour on the fuel and acquire some customers probably negatively if you can
100%.
weather it.
Yeah.
I kind of break it down into demographic buckets, not necessarily niches. It's like males age 25 to 34 going to convert a certain way and they're going to respond to certain aspects versus, older males or older females. And that's kind of how I approach optimization as a whole. But that's just some of the kind of trends I'm seeing in the market.
Interesting. So just going back to what you just said there. So you approach, is that your first step? When you approach conversion optimization, you look first of all at the demographic and say, okay, this is the demographic for this, and this is how I know they respond. So now I work from there. That's it.
Yeah, typically. Because you and I know it's not. There's no like super trick or gimmick or tactic or any of. There are those things.
Say it ain't so.
Just the 3 steps, and you're it. The 3. That's it. It's like 5. It's like 6-minute abs instead of 7-minute.
Well, and it's funny, and we're laughing at that, but I want everybody listening to pay attention to that, because we always, it's too easy to fall into that trap, because, and there's always somebody marketing the latest, greatest conversion doubling, whatever. Right. And
nothing's changed in my 23 years or 22 years of marketing.
Yeah.
Buyers are buyers. It's just the mediums change.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't use the tricks, gimmicks, tactics, like everything's on sale, it's countdown timers, all the fun stuff that marketers ruin literally with everything. Is that stuff is fine until it's not.
Right.
And then you can't pull up from that nosedive. So I come in, approach optimization from a very fresh, unbiased look. Okay. I don't use, yes, I know kind of what buttons to push and what pieces are there, but really I want direct feedback from those customers and those buyers and those visitors and those shoppers and how they interact with the brand. But if I know they're 40 plus male, they're not going to be heavy comparison shopping. They're not going to be heavy review shopping. They're going to respond well to, warranty information, quick digestible benefit statements, testimonials, not reviews, and a very simple and streamlined process. And they're not really price sensitive. They're not really, free shipping sensitive. Whereas females are going to be heavily, review and comparison and really, all of those pieces. So I look at it and approach there. And then optimization, when we start that process, is really just turning over rocks. It's like we're trying to measure and see what really holds weight on these key pages. So if you look at any e-commerce store, you've got a homepage, collections, product, cart, checkout. So it's really those 5 key site areas. And what on those pages is a friction point, and what really matters on those pages. And we use our experimentation to figure it out. Oh, hey, they really respond well to image, or really respond well to video. They don't really like testimonials, or hey, they really want to know that there's free shipping at a certain benchmark, or they have some questions that are unanswered and we need to figure that out. And then we use that to kind of inform our future strategy. So if you're getting that direct feedback, you're not guessing. Whereas a lot of marketers will come in and say, oh, I saw this on so-and-so's store, so it must work. And then they just implement it and they have no idea if it actually worked or how their buyers actually responded to it. So we use the experimentation to just inform our strategy versus I can go back and look at historical data all day long, but you're still assuming and you're still going to be guessing at a jumping off point. So we just go in and start testing. And we know we have about a list of about 82 ideas that we know are high leverage. We can apply, and obviously not all apply to everybody, but we have a good benchmark of and bullpen of those key elements that we know to start with.
So you've got this master list of 82, which is substantial. Give us like, what are three of your most common ones that you see are most applicable?
Testing. So it's trivial, but I look at it from a user experience flow.
Okay.
It's usually showcasing products or categories or collections on the homepage, maximizing that hero section. So I literally just looked at a pretty large store out of a Canadian store this morning, and their hero image wasn't even clickable.
Right.
So it's maximizing that flow. Usually showcasing any of the risk reversal type stuff. It's really, I don't know why people don't do it, but it's pretty common that they don't.
Yeah.
Showcase any of their satisfaction.
You know why? You know why? I know why. Because people are afraid people will use it.
Yeah. I mean, it's dumb, but
that's it. They hide it because they're like, what if it increases refunds? I'm like, any increase in refunds is going to be massively offset by the substantial increase in conversion.
Yeah. I'm like, give them a lifetime guarantee.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. They're going to refund in the first 90 anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I look at that. Usually right now we're adding a lot of in-stock language, estimated shipping time. So taking a page right out of Amazon, skipping the cart pop-up. So when you add to cart, instead of going directly to a cart pop-up or something to continue shopping, going directly to the cart page. Same thing if it's a drawer, a side cart drawer. We'll usually test skipping that and going directly to the cart page.
So you figure that just that cart pop-up is just one step of friction that's creating more drop-off.
Yeah, especially if it doesn't stay on the page.
Yeah.
With heavy mobile, it's hard. I know Shopify makes it somewhat easy, but
yeah.
And then the number of checkout pages that I see don't even have their logo on it is pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Even I'm talking companies that are doing sizable revenue.
Sure.
So it's not continually selling that process through the end.
Yeah.
We do a lot of stuff with collections pages, like hiding CTAs and kind of moving and doing the shopping experience versus letting them kind of quick shop and add to cart right there.
Yeah.
I would rather get them to a big page and give them more information. But the list is pretty substantial when it comes to that. And then once we know that those things kind of move the needle or not, then we'll lean in, and usually one idea will prompt 10
more. Yeah. Well, and I think, so, I mean, I know a challenge with a lot of the listeners and smaller e-commerce shops is, they're like, first of all, I don't know what to test. And then second of all, how do you prioritize testing? Because I see people that they'll test 10 things at once. They don't know what worked, or they don't know what to test, or they don't have enough traffic to get any statistically relevant result on, say, this single product page. Maybe they get, they do okay, but somebody could be doing $500,000 a year in sales, and one of their product pages doesn't get enough meaningful conversions or traffic to generate a statistically relevant result in a meaningful period of time.
So I take the approach to the smaller stores of a qualitative approach.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't even recommend split testing at that point, because you're not, like you said, you're not going to get statistically valid results. You're going to get a lot of noise. It's going to take 2 months to get a result. And who's got time for that? I would rather take the qualitative approach. And by that, I mean heat maps, click maps, scroll maps as one layer. And number two, just poll them.
Right.
Like, it sounds so stupidly simple because it is.
Yeah.
I don't like complicated at all. If you're not sure why your visitors aren't converting, ask them.
Sure.
I mean, it's not rocket science. So I'll use exit polls.
Yeah.
Or timed pop-up polls. And I'm not asking for email. I'm not asking for name. I'm not asking for anything. Just a simple text box. What's holding you back from trying our product? That's it. Just ask. And they're going to tell you, well, it's price. It's this. I didn't know, how big is it? The trends are going to start to come out, and you're going to find exactly what's wrong.
And you just leave it an open-ended question. Why didn't you buy? Or
Yep. Wow. Open-ended text box. Let them vent. Let them have it. Because you can't give them multiple choice, because that doesn't give you the real reason. That's giving them a canned answer. So if you say price, okay, that's great. Doesn't help them elaborate on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I know it's never price.
Yeah.
That's the objection.
Yeah.
It's some value-based thing didn't get conveyed properly.
Yeah.
Or the risk reward is too great. So we just simply ask them. I did this with a skincare company out of the UK last year.
Mm-hmm.
They went from 35 sales on average a day to 300 in 6 months.
Wow.
We didn't run a single split test.
You just asked.
And they literally broke their infrastructure and they had to back off traffic because they had to fix their inventory and their fulfillment.
So was it, I don't know how many details you can give up, but was it like one or two big things, or was it just a whole series of little things?
No, it was just a handful of things.
Yeah. Really, hey?
It was it, because they thought they knew what their audience wanted, but it wasn't what they really wanted.
Yeah.
And it was a natural skincare product. So there was a lot of unanswered questions and there was a lot of discovery there. And it was a little bit more expensive and it was kind of a little bit more luxury.
Yeah.
But once we painted that picture and answered and handled those objections, it was like a rocket. I'm talking not even hockey stick. It was vertical.
Wow.
And it was, they were converting at, 40% more. I mean, it was like off the charts.
Dude, I just made a note to myself. Just for everybody who's listening, what you just heard there is, God, sometimes the simplest answer is the one you overlook. And this is it, like an open-ended, why didn't you buy survey?
So I'll ask two questions. So just to take it a step further.
All right.
Why, what's holding you back from trying our product? Or, it can work for literally anything. It can, if you're a software as a service,
totally.
Like, why aren't you taking my demo? Like, what's holding you back from scheduling a demo? What's holding you back from whatever? And this is an exit. So think of it. It's not like I'm just interrupting them. It's like these people are going to leave. The
exit intent pop-up.
7% of people exit intent. And usually I'll time it on mobile. So if it's on your homepage and it's 30 seconds, I'll set it at 15. We'll see what the responses are at. Or the second question is, what questions do you have today that we weren't able to answer for you?
Right.
That's it. I mean, I'm not trying to do any tricks or any other things to capture email and build a list. I'm not doing anything. You're going to sacrifice some sales because you're just gonna.
Yeah.
It's not a post-checkout survey that somebody's already purchased.
Yeah.
It's like, these visitors are here. They clicked on an ad. They're on my site. Why aren't they buying? Or why aren't they adding to cart? Or, you can do it in different stages throughout the journey too. So you're just gathering that qualitative feedback, and then you can see, they're clicking on this or they're not clicking on this. A step further in that qualitative analysis is you might find that they're clicking on your about page a lot, or they're trying to find more information, or they're clicking on support. That means you haven't built that trust enough.
Yeah.
I took this page out of, we did a bunch of work a handful of years ago for Tony Robbins. And it was the same thing. It's like they were clicking on his about. I mean, who the hell doesn't know who Tony Robbins is?
Exactly.
But they were clicking because it was for one of his specific products and his events. And it's like the trust and value wasn't there. So we started sprinkling in that about stuff throughout the journey. Yeah. And it just took off on the scheduled appointments or whatever the strategy calls or whatever he was booking at that time. But yeah, I don't like overcomplicating anything, particularly in the e-com space, because Shopify makes it really easy to just click install on a lot of apps and a lot of things. And everybody is seemingly an expert in growing and scaling e-commerce businesses. And I just cut down to the simplest form of marketing. It's just people buy for, a couple reasons. That's to avoid pain or gain pleasure. And you have to figure out how they're interacting with a brand and what can you do to help them make that process easier.
So speaking of Shopify, I mean, Shopify is either being used or being imitated everywhere, right?
Totally. And it was down this morning too. So that made my morning amazing.
Oh God. Didn't even know that. All right.
Storefronts were down.
Yeah. Storefronts were down. Oh, good. Good. Is there any particular themes that you really like from a conversion standpoint on Shopify?
Yep, the free one out of the box.
Seriously, why?
Because it's simple.
Really, hey?
Because going back to the marketers ruin everything. Everybody's got the next best theme. It's got the next best function. We built in this, we built in that, and we have all of these pieces. That's just bloat.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares that you accept PayPal. On these, it's like they have all of these fancy pop-ups and it's X number of people purchase this product in the last 24 hours or whatever. Those elements, I would rather have a fresh canvas to figure out how they interact with the brand than try to overcomplicate it with something that a marketer has tried to push as a sales piece.
Sure.
Because you don't know. There's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
Every brand has different inputs and outputs. I don't care if you're both selling toothpaste. One brand is going to have different inputs and outputs than the other. Their conversion metrics are going to be completely different. So you have to take that with a grain of salt in terms of theme. But there is no like super all-encompassing high converting theme.
Yeah.
I'd never recommend apps. There's only a couple that I actually do recommend. Is Rebuy is one of them. That's about literally the only app that I recommend, outside of a few other than like split payment apps or any infrastructure type apps. In terms of marketing, that's the only one I recommend.
Really?
The rest of the stuff I code in hard and just make it simple and clean as possible. So shipping countdowns, those kinds of things.
You just code them in.
Yeah, just code them in.
Interesting. Okay.
Bet you weren't expecting that answer.
No, I wasn't. I was like, oh, damn, you use this one and this one and this one. And you just totally poo-pooed all that. Yeah. What a disappointment, Justin. But it makes sense. I mean, and I get it. It's so easy to go down that rabbit hole and all you're focused on is what's this theme or what does that do? And, this next, when in reality, it's what is going to get your message across the right way, the best way, and connect with your customer, which it goes back to copywriting in many cases too. People do not want to spend time on copywriting because copywriting's hard. It's subjective. It's in most people, unless you're a copywriter, not fun. It's funner to go shop for
whether they think it's fun either.
Yeah, they just get paid well for it, so they have to like it. But it's funner to shop for apps, right?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I'm lucky, so this is going to age me completely, but I'm fortunate enough I get to work weekly with Gary Bensavenga.
Yep.
On the copy side, so we do all of their testing for their olive oil offer.
Yeah,
and I get to test some of the world-class best copy on the planet.
Oh yeah,
on a regular basis that I don't have to write.
Yeah, yeah.
So I get it, and it's hard to think simple when marketers, and I keep saying marketers ruin everything because they literally, it's like always the next best and latest and greatest.
Sure, 100%.
It's trying to fix in all of these things, and everybody's got the magic bullet. And magic bullet isn't that. It's follow your data, let the visitors tell you what's going on, and adjust, wash, rinse, and repeat. I mean, it's not that hard. And people make it. I think people make it hard, and then they struggle because they make it hard.
The only thing that I think is hard is the branding and the messaging and the
message market match for sure.
That's the hardest freaking part, figuring out how you're going to connect with your market and then communicating that effectively. But it's interesting in the e-com space. I mean, you and I both cut our chops in direct response, right? Like, back in the direct response days, everybody knows copy's king, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to be the case in e-com. How many of the clients do you come across that just have spent nothing on copywriting?
Most of them. I mean, literally outside of a little bit of description.
Yeah.
It's all UX based. And that's been very, very hard for me over the years to adjust to because, like I said, we're direct response. You place an ad, you get result, you tweak, you scale, and you can scale very, very quickly. Whereas e-com, there's 50 different inputs, and there's user generated content, and there's all of these omnichannel kind of bubble that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
But it all typically comes down to, well, and I say this loosely, it's from 0 to 20 sales a day is kind of the benchmark that I look at. That's where the message market match and finding your brand and figuring that. Once you're consistently at 20 or so plus sales a day, then it all becomes a UX kind of scale, pour fuel on the fire,
right?
Type situation. But very few focus on copywriting outside of landing pages. And it's some of the ones that are usually the single product, not the brand, selling the widget through an e-commerce platform that are very heavy on the copy.
Yeah, that's because they've created an offer.
Yeah.
And they're running traffic typically through native stuff like that, where they've got a
advertorial,
cold audience, right? It's not a, so they've got it's a different sales process. But it's interesting. The guys that can crack that code can move a ton of product.
Yeah, that. I mean, I've worked with some brands that'll, they'll do $1.5 million a month on a single product offer, and all they're caring about is optimizing upsell one. It's like that's
and that's what I find interesting. So, I mean, you kind of know my history, and I went into e-com in the supplement space, and I was like, how do you bring direct response into e-com? Because I kind of always looked at it and thought, you got the direct response guys over here and the e-com guys over there, but what if we met somewhere in the middle and we used offers to create audiences and then built a brand around that then had all the LTV and all the stuff that came with that? And I think that's where there's a huge opportunity that a lot of guys are missing out on.
Oh, totally. Because everybody's saying just start a Shopify store and drop ship, and then you got this thing, and there you go. But I think that if you do, you can have a brand and still do direct response. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And I do think majority of people do not get that, because Facebook traffic is not going to convert the same as Google shopping traffic. And they're not going to go to this. You can't just send everything to your homepage and hope something's going to convert.
Yeah, not at all.
Because it's not.
and then you get into native, which is just cast a wide net. Yeah. Forget it. You have to warm them up. You have to bring them through sequences, right?
Yeah, that's a full top of funnel, top, middle, bottom, sort it all out.
Totally.
And going back in our direct response routes too, I generally don't recommend brands, and somebody's going to shoot me for this, but I don't recommend that they use post-checkout upsells in a truest e-com environment.
Okay, why?
You can do it on an offer flow, but so many people are, I think if you oversell that process, you're going to burn your audience for a lifetime of sustainable long-term longevity in the brand. There's a time and a place for it, and most people just go, sell. Yep. And, supplements, guilty, buy 4, and then we're immediately going to show you a 6-pack.
Yep.
But who needs, 10 bottles, which surprisingly a lot of people need 10 bottles of it. But if you're doing that with a brand, say like it's an oral care brand, or it's, something that you don't need that aggressiveness to be able to increase that average order value.
Sure.
I think the misconception in total e-com, at least what I see a lot of, is when we remove that element and we take more of a cross-sell approach pre-checkout, we can get similar-ish results without having to sacrifice it.
So,
but I'll go the same way if that's where the marry of the direct response means. There's a place for it. But not everybody, because those are the people that are like, everything's 50% off on the front. And then now it's all of a sudden we've got a chain of 5 upsells, and you're living in that kind of perpetual state of continually selling versus building that relationship with the customer and then pitching them and upselling them. And I think the same thing for, abandoned checkout sequences and all of that.
So 2 things. First of all, abandoned checkouts. If there's one thing that actually pisses me off and I refuse to do, it's the abandoned checkout sequence where they immediately send me a discount to come back and buy.
It's a joke. Literally, I say, if you want a 10 or 15% discount, just leave the cart.
Yeah. And I've never understood that, because when I get it, it always leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because I'm like, well, if I'd bought full price, nobody would have sent me a discount, right? Yeah. And it's shocking the size of companies that do this. Like, absolutely shocking. But the thing I want to go back to is, you were just talking about post-purchase upsells and how that can hurt. Mm-hmm. I've validated that theory for you. That's obviously not a theory, but I have validated it for you, because, again, I'm the direct response guy, and so I went in, and on a bunch of supplements, I put post-purchase upsell, and I would have 3 to 4. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, add this. Oh, add this. After they'd purchase, 1 click, add this. Oh, have you thought about, 1 click, add this. And one of the interesting things that I have that gives me immediate feedback is, we have a call center. And our call center, within 15 to 20 minutes of an order during business hours, they'll call that customer just to confirm the order. And they do a very consultative soft upsell, right? Which clients like, because it's not a hard scripted upsell, right? These are people that have a health background, and it works. But immediately when I started doing that, not immediately, but after about 3 or 4 months, they're like, dude, people we call now, so many of them are pissed off. Mm-hmm. They're frustrated. And the perceptions they draw of, are you desperate? Are you, like there was all these conclusions they were coming through. They just felt like they were just pitched too hard, and yada, yada, yada. I went, oh shit, we got to pull back on that. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. So I didn't take them all away. I went and said, okay, well, of all these sequences, there was 3 or 4 upsells. Which one was working the best, that people had the highest uptake on? And let's just pull back to that. And just pulling back to that one, hey, would you also like, has been fine. And I haven't had all the complaints dropped off. Yeah. But again, that whole direct response, we've been there, and especially in the info marketing world, upsell. You're right. It hurts the brand.
I would rather have a long-term customer in an e-com. Yeah. I mean, in supplements, it's consumable. I mean,
yeah, they're coming back if they liked it.
And you're hoping they're going to come back. Yeah, that's the whole point. And you don't need to sell them 500 of the first thing until you get them hooked on using it. Yeah, like, I buy the same damn protein powder. I buy the same stuff, and I'm a creature of habit. Yeah. Once I find something I like, same pre-workout, the same. Totally. I mean, it's like
you fit your demographic perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And
totally.
It's easy. And I think so many people get into that greed mode, and goes back to the return on ad spend. It's like, well, if I could just get my average order value, but people don't understand, in e-com, average order value is actually the easiest metric to optimize for. If you have a scale of product in your store, I mean, if you have one offer, one product, it's a little bit harder, but if you've got 50 SKUs, it's not hard to cross-sell them into something dynamic.
100%.
To now 20 to 30% more basket size. That goes back to stop overcomplicating it.
Well, yeah. Also, it goes back to, we had it really easy over COVID, and people were launching offers, and they were seeing a positive ROI on their ad spend straight out of the gate. And that's not reality. Before COVID, I was losing money on my ad spends. During COVID, it got a little better, but then I just spent more because I could acquire more customers, right? So it was fantastic. But now I'm still losing money on customers, and I always will on that front end, but I'm going to make it up on the back end. And for all those people out there that had it easy, were making money on Facebook straight up, that ship's gone, right? That's sailed, it's left.
I mean, that's the problem I'm facing now. Particularly, I get a lot of leads through every week. Yeah. And I see a lot of problems. And they're like, well, my offer is just not converting the same way as it used to. I'm like, yeah, you and everybody else. I mean, it's like, why did my conversion rate drop? You guys must be doing something. It's like, have you seen the state of everything in the world right now?
100%.
I had one leave me a bad review the other day.
Oh, God.
They were selling basically one product that was doing amazing. And then all of a sudden it just stopped converting. And they're like, Conversion Fanatics ruined our whole entire offer. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. We saw positive improvement in almost everything we did. Yeah. And his traffic, when you're all in Facebook and Instagram's bucket, and you're used to 3-4x return on ad spend, and all of a sudden you're down to break even. Yeah. And your conversion rate drops 30% because nobody wants to buy that particular product because of the discretionary spending. Sorry. I mean, there's no amount of marketing that can fix a product that nobody wants to buy anymore. That I would rather build a long-term brand.
Yeah.
And I tell people, anytime you race to the discount and anytime you race to the aggressive tricks, gimmicks, tactics is immediately when you've lost.
Yeah.
It works.
Sure.
Again, until it doesn't.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And then back on the abandoned checkout sequence to finish that thought. Never give the discount right away. You can incentivize the purchase. Usually they'll have a question about the product or the company. So go through a frequently asked questions kind of sequence, social proof sequence, why you started the company sequence, kind of the pain, fear, logic situation in copywriting. Then offer them a soft upsell. But usually they just have an unanswered question.
Yeah.
It's not that they wanted a discount. Because again, price is
rarely, if ever, the issue. Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's a tough one for people to shake because that's the easy one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's easy to offer a discount. Shopify makes it really easy to set up a coupon code. It's done.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. All right. Look, we're almost out of time here. I mean, I could talk to you for hours. And for everybody listening, there was a ton of stuff in here that was... if the wheels aren't turning right now, they should be. And if they're not, go back and listen again. I've got a list of things that I'm going to implement out of this, and I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, if anything, just go put that exit pop on, right? Ask them why they're not buying.
Use Mouseflow or Hotjar for that, by the way.
Mouseflow, it's called?
Mouseflow.
Yeah. Oh, for the exit intent pop-up. Yeah.
It's the heat map solution. And it's got the survey built in. Hotjar is the other one.
Okay.
It has that in. Those are my two favorites.
Brilliant. I'm going to do that. Justin, before we wrap up, where can people hear more? How can they reconnect with you?
I'm on social pretty much everywhere. onespot.social.com/Justin Christianson, I believe is the URL for that. But you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, conversionfanatics.com.
Awesome.
A lot of info there. You can actually go to conversionfanatics.com/freebook, all one word, and get a copy of my book, PDF copy, no opt-in, no nothing, just simply download it.
Oh, brilliant. Very generous. Very generous. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here again. And we'll have to do it again in the future when we do our therapy session for people that sold companies.
Maybe. All right. Appreciate it, Derek. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. That was Justin Christianson. And, here's the thing. You just got a ton of valuable, actionable insights that you can start using to increase the conversion on your e-com websites. But they only will work if you apply that final essential ingredient, and that is action. So don't just listen to this podcast and go, oh, that was a good idea. Actually, write something down that you're going to do from this and go do it and get a result. And when you get that result, please take a moment, leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform. That is what fuels us to keep making these great episodes. And this episode is a wrap. I'll see you again real soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the eCommerce Expert Podcast. If you liked what you heard, make sure to give us a virtual high five by rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the show on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to check out our website at ecommerceexpert.com for show notes and bonus materials. See you in the next episode.